Good morning. So, Sarah laughed out a promise from God, and God heard it. And what he said back to her is what we're getting into this morning. So, I invite you to stay in here with me. Good morning to each and every one of you who are coming into this live. I welcome you. As you're kind of coming in, if you are new to this Bible study, first of all, we are literally just getting started. So, good morning. It is good to see all the familiar faces. If you are new, I invite you to stay. This Bible study is for everyone. This Bible study is one where I pray that it helps you to see faith and business in a different lens. I work with faith-driven female entrepreneurs, but this Bible study is for everyone. So good morning. Good morning. Good morning. So as you're coming in, I have our usual question to help kind of guide us through the study today. So, is there something that God has put in your heart? Maybe it's something that you wrote down, could be something that you prayed over, something maybe that you just genuinely believe that He said, that you have stopped expecting. Is there something that God has put on your heart? And then after a while, you just kind of stopped expecting it. So like you still believe it in theory, right? But in practice, when you think about it, it's something that makes you kind of laugh. Maybe not because you lack faith, but you're just tired of expecting something that hasn't shown up yet. That's where we're at today. So we're gonna be talking about it. Good morning, Sandra, Erica, Carolyn, Aunt Tina. Good morning to every single one of you. Happy to see you back in my office. Thank you for holding tight with me on Friday while I tried to get the live to work. So if you guys intended to be on Friday's live and you got on maybe a little bit later and saw that I wasn't there, that's because it wasn't working. So what we're studying today is going to be one that we intended to do on Friday. So, good morning. Good morning, Michael. It is good to see every one of you here today. If you're new here, and I'd love to know, what kind of season are you in right now? Are you in a waiting season? Are you in a season where it feels like maybe you haven't stopped believing that God will, but it's just been a really long time? You think about it and you're like, wow. Can't even believe that it has been this long that the promise has been on my heart, or that this desire, maybe it's in business, right? You've been building something for such a long time, waiting to see the full fruits of it, whatever that looks like for you, especially if you're new here. I invite you to stay to listen to what we're going to talk about because it's very relevant to this. So yeah, that waiting season can be hard. I will say there's so much that happens in these waiting seasons that I think that God can see so much more than what we can. And the waiting season really is a blessing, but it doesn't always feel like that in the moment, right? Yes. Christ is King. Exactly. He can see all things and He knows when the perfect time is for us. And we know that He holds true to His promises, right? Even when it feels like it's been longer than what we would have anticipated. So good morning. It has been the Mondayest Monday. I did not want to get out of bed today. But I was like, I want to stay with my routine. Do any of you guys have a pretty consistent routine in the morning? Mine has gotten to a place over the past month and a half or so, and I really enjoy it. And so I try not to deviate away from it. It's something that I feel like has become sustainable. I've learned that it's so much easier for me to I think everybody, but to just add on little things here and there, not try to do every single thing at once. That's kind of where I'm at. So I've become pretty consistent in my routine and I enjoy it. I feel like it gives me a sense of stability and predictability in my day to just say, day in, day out, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to stick with it. And it's more of like this season that I'm walking into is setting myself up to be that version of her. Like that what I mean by that is the version of her that I'm trying to embody. Trying to think of the best way to say that because that's kind of vague still. There's this version that God is calling me to step into, and I think that I'm starting to get a lot closer to that version of her. And so there's a lot of mindset reframing, a lot of envisioning what would she like, right? How do I support this next version of her? Setting myself up for these things that I think my future self would like is the best way you can put it. So that's kind of where I'm at in this season. I know a lot of you said you're in the waiting season. As we are in that waiting season, because I think that's a lot of us. And if you're just hopping on, I'd love to know if you're in that waiting season where the fullness of God's promise, maybe it doesn't feel like you're fully in it. So I think a lot of us are in that. That's what I'm doing in my waiting season. I'm starting to become more of that version of myself that can support the woman that God is calling me into in its fullness. Does that make sense to you guys? It's a version of myself that I'm not 100% clear on. It's just, how do I support her? What does that look like? I'm curious what you guys are doing in your waiting season. Yes, Carolyn, you said you have faith that God has a new plan for us. Yes, I absolutely believe that. I can say with full confidence that the version that I thought that I was to hold the promises is not anywhere near what I need it to be. And I love that his beauty and his grace is showing me that. That's part of the plan. I know that's not the fullness of it, but there's a lot. And I think that's why as hard as the waiting seasons can be sometimes, sorry, I was trying to turn it down. I don't know if it's loud for you guys or what. But that's why I kind of enjoy these waiting seasons, because the waiting to me, it's not a one-up. So I have to caution that in myself to say, you're not unlocking, right? You're not earning the promise. God already gave it to you. But I think there is a level of him coming in and guiding me to this area where the person I am doesn't try to run back to those old patterns, those old ways, and operating that didn't sustain me. But yeah, that's where we're at. So good morning as you guys come on in. I want to ask you again, if you're just popping in, is there something that God put on your heart? And it's something that you've actually stopped expecting. Like you believe it in theory, but when in practice, when you think about it, something in you just kind of laughs. You're just tired of expecting something that has not shown up yet. That's exactly where Sarah is in Genesis 18. And I want to show you in those seasons when we feel like that, what God does with it, because it's going to reframe how we carry promises throughout these long waiting periods. So that's where we're going to go today. If you're new here, I would encourage you, please drop a comment. I actually have decided that I'm going to send you guys a gift. I wanted a way to welcome all of you guys into this community that we have here on TikTok. And if you're new here, just drop a comment. You can say good morning. You can drop an emoji. I want to send you guys, oh, thank you, Auntie. I wanted to send you this thing that I made. It's a series of questions, right? To ask yourself when you're going through tough decisions, okay? They're faith-based, of course. They're led by God. I mean, yes, I would say they're led by God. I invited God into the process, as I always do. But they're questions surrounding really every area of your life: faith, business, your whole identity. So as you're dropping in this morning, just tell me good morning. And it's one that I will send you those questions. There's about 40 of them. And it just invites you to kind of pause and think, okay, how can I invite God into this process more? How can I reframe my thinking more? And they just help you. They help you kind of to get out of the mindset of what the world tells you. Sometimes the loops that we replay in our mind, and keeps them recentered on God. So every single one of you that is new here, I would say, I know that you guys are saying good morning, but I don't want to send the guide to anybody who maybe isn't interested in the questions. So maybe I'll do it like this. If you go ahead and just drop any sort of emoji, that'll be my indication that you guys are interested in that. You don't have to be new. It's just anybody that wants that, but especially if you're new here. So you'll hear me saying that pretty frequently on these lives. I created this guide a little while ago, and it's not that I haven't done anything with it. I definitely have, but I wanted a way to get it out to you guys because these questions were questions that I found really helped me in all of these areas, whether it's faith, motherhood. Even if you're not a mom and you receive this, that's okay. It'll help reframe your mindset if you're a father. But this was, of course, written in the perspective of a mother in business, but I think it's so applicable to everyone. So good morning to each and every one of you. Thank you. I'm excited that you guys want it. It's just something that I'm not selling you anything. It's just the mindset. I think these questions, and then they come with wallpapers that you could download on your phone that you can put like as a screensaver if there's any one of them that really hit home for you, to just kind of look back on. So the paint color on my bookshelf, it's like a navy, a royal blue kind of, I'd say more navy. I'll have to look up the exact color. If you want the exact color because you want to paint it for yourself, I can definitely get it for you. I just don't know off the top of my head. It's like a bluish color. And I wanted to do this color because most of my home is neutrals, but in the rooms, so like the main areas are like more of a neutral color. But in like my son's rooms and my office, I haven't gotten to our bedroom yet, but those rooms tend to have more color. And I was like, I don't want my office to be the same as the rest of the house. I want to pop a color somewhere. So that's what that color is. But good morning to every single one of you guys that are coming in. We're going to go ahead and get started. At the start of the live, I asked a question, and I think it's so relevant to what we're going to get into today. So is there something that God put on your heart? Maybe you wrote it down, you prayed over it. It's something that you genuinely believe that he said, that it's been a while and you've kind of just stopped expecting it. That is where we're going today in Genesis 18. That's where Sarah is. Now, some of you that have been following, you might be like, who's Sarah? Right? I think most of you know. A lot of you guys are familiar with Genesis 18 and who Sarah is. But we've been referencing her as Sarai, right? Sarai. And we've been referencing Abraham as Abram, because that was their name. You're going to see that changes as well here. But where we're going today in Genesis 18, I ask you that question because I want you to see what God does with this, okay? What he does with these waiting seasons where we've kind of just stopped expecting the promise because it's been a long time. But I really think that it's going to help ease our minds of how we carry promises through a long wait. So we are going to get started. So I'm going to give you a quick recap as I always do. This is where we were at on Thursday. I was going to go live on I did go live on Friday and it just didn't work out. And I think that's for a reason. I always kind of lean into that because you know what, to me, if there's tech issues, if there's things, I can tell the difference between maybe like spiritual warfare and sometimes maybe you guys need to hear the message at a different time. That's what I feel like it is. You guys were to receive it. I could have kept going. I mean, there were 15 of you on. I could have kept going even in the cutting out and still try to do tech things, but something told me, let's just wait. Let's just wait. It's okay to take a day, to take a breather. Because to me, it's so important, of course, the experience that you guys get. But but I wanna have it be where you guys hear the word, as many of you as it can be. So we are on Thursday, we were in Genesis 16 and we spoke all about Hagar. I loved that. I'm curious for those of you that were in the study on Thursday that heard me talk about the story of Hagar, if that was something that was new to you. I loved it. I had moments where I was like trying to keep it together. But it reframed my mindset because in all honesty, prior to studying it, I hadn't heard it in that way. I don't think I understood the depth of what Hagar was going through and the significance of what God walked her through. If that was new for you guys, I'd love to know that I'm not the only one. And if there was a moment in there that really stood out to you. For me, it was the moment where God, really told her, you're going to name your son Ishmael, meaning God hears. Okay, so the story is that Hagar was placed in an arrangement that she didn't choose. She was an Egyptian servant that was given to Abram after, and he kept her after they left Egypt. Sarai, Abram's wife, was barren. She could not conceive. And in that, she kind of rushed the promise because she knew that God had given them a promise that Abram would be the father of great nations. So Abram kind of questioned God after a period of time had gone by and said, I don't have a son. How is this going to come to be? I don't have children and my wife is barren. And God said, you will have a child and it will be of your own. It won't be somebody from your household. The heir will be one that comes from you, from your bloodline. And so Sarai kind of rushed it and said, I'm barren. We need to get this promise to go through. Go ahead and sleep with your servant, Hagar. So Abram says, okay, and he does. And then after a while, when Sarai finds that Hagar has conceived, she gets upset because that also means that she loses her status, right? So there's a lot of things. It gets really complicated. But then she begins to mistreat Hagar, the servant, right? And I could imagine that this is really confusing to Hagar because she was voluntold. She was put into this scenario, went along with it as best she could. She didn't have, I wouldn't say she didn't consent to it, but it was one where she didn't come up with a plan. And so it got complicated. She's being mistreated, and that's a nice term for that. And so she ran. She ran back to her home, Egypt, which is essentially, she's on the road back to a place where it's really the only place that she's ever known. And God found her on the road before she even looked for him. And I love that. In Hebrew, the word that is used means he found her. Okay, so she was not seeking. He was already moving towards her. And so in this moment, it's a scenario where God meets her and he calls her by name. And then he asks her, where are you going? He wasn't doing that because he wanted information. God knew. God knew where she was going, right? And she told the truth. It's so contradictory to a lot of the things that we've seen prior in Scripture, in Genesis, where God will call out to somebody. And it's not that he doesn't know when he asks the question. He knows in this moment, but he's looking for truth. And she does that. A lot of times when God asks others, like Cain asks Adam and Eve, they don't speak with honesty. They try to deflect. They try to cover up. But she just speaks with truth. And the thing about it is she doesn't have a relationship with the Lord. Based on what we see in Scripture, she has no prior relationship. So she does have reason to say, I don't know who you are, angel of the Lord. Like, I don't actually know who you are. And I'm going to be honest with you. Like, she could have told him to go away, but she didn't. She tells him the truth. She says, I am running. And then this angel then tells her, you're pregnant and you're going to have a son, and you're going to name your son Ishmael. And in Hebrew, this means God hears. And this, to me, the beauty of this is that whenever anyone says his name going forward, anytime that name is spoken, it's a reminder to say, God heard the one in the wilderness. And she's the first one in scripture to go on to give God a name. She names him El Roi. That means the living one who sees me. So the first person in all of scripture to name God is a servant woman who was on the road away from everything. She's scared, she's alone. She's probably at her lowest, one of her lowest points, and God comes and finds her. He sought her. And it is one where there's just so much beauty in it, and that there's nothing that will keep God away from you. And he knows every circumstance that we're going through. He knows the promises, right? He knows when it feels like it's too long that we've been waiting. We're going to stay in this same story where the promise still has not come, and the wait has gone on long enough where Sarah has essentially where the wait has gone on long enough that when Sarah hears it again, something in her breaks open. Okay? So that's where we're at. Good morning to each and every one of you. Okay, this is where we're going to be in Genesis. I'm really looking forward to it. I pray, Ashley, it is one that you stay for. I'm glad to know that you needed to hear it. And Mary, I love that you found this room as well. That means a lot to me. Bootleg, I totally forgot about that. I'm going to have to go back on. Remind me, is that on Netflix? I can't remember where you told me where this is. I think you might have said Fox, something like that. If there's like a replay option, can you let us know? Because I do want to, okay, you said Fox. I do want to catch that. Is that just like, where do you watch it? Do you have just like regular, I feel like I'm so out of it. I don't have any of like the regular TV channels except for like on YouTube TV. Do you just have it on like regular TV, or do you watch it through like a streaming service? Okay, perfect. All right, I'm going to try to watch it on YouTube TV. If you have an idea of when it comes on, I'm going to like set a reminder because I did want to watch that. So for all of you guys, if you didn't see Bootleg's comment, there's this series called The Women of the Bible, and it came on last night, and I was meaning to watch it on Fox, and I totally spaced it. So if you guys are interested in that, maybe check it out too. And if you watch it, let me know tomorrow if you hop on. So welcome to all of you guys. We're going to get into the word here. I was just giving you a recap. It is one where we're in Genesis 16. Now we're going to be in Genesis 17 and 18. And the way that I decided to structure these Bible studies is, if we're looking at it from a faith and business lens, I do still want it to make sure that we maintain that essence of it. And so there are parts of scripture as we're going through, because I decided I really do love reading it chronologically. I want to read the Bible instead of skipping around. I want to read it from Genesis all the way to Revelation. And there's, of course, going to be parts that are not as relevant to business. I'm not going to skip them because the Bible's so important, but I will kind of just give you the information you need to know to get to where we need to be, if that makes sense. But yes, I am reading the Bible from beginning to end. And so if you guys are new here, I have a recap with the link in my Bible. My bio. It's on YT, and you guys can get all the past versions of it. Up until Genesis 6, I have to record from 6 to 1 because TikTok why can I not speak? TikTok didn't save them. And so that's fine. I don't mind doing that, but it's going to take me a while. So what you're going to see on that recap list is from Genesis 6 up until the most recent. So today's will be on there later today. So you just go to the link in my bio. There's like a link tree, and you guys can go in, and it says like Bible study recaps. And at the end of the week, I send you an email that just gives you a preview of the next week and everything we covered in this week. You don't have to wait for the week. You can just go to the link day by day, if that makes sense. But I send you a recap on Friday, just so you guys always have that link so you don't have to search for it. So that's with the link in my bio. That's where we're at. Fridays is not on there, if you guys are wondering. I couldn't stream. My connection was just so awful. So we're covering what we were going to cover on Friday. So I'm excited. If you guys are new here, I just want to recap this too as you're kind of coming in. And I'll say this one more time. I want to know if you're new here. I have a little 40 question guide that I created to help you through times when you're going. The guide is called Quiet Questions for Big Decisions. So if you drop an emoji, you can say I'm new here, either one, and I'll send you the guide. But if you want the guide, just send in a drop an emoji. I'm not selling you anything. It's just I have found these times where I've been facing something and I'm like, what should I ask? Instead of being so inundated with all the things of the world and getting stuck in my mindset, how do I recenter my mind on God? So that's what that is. And if you guys want that, I can send it to you. If not, no worries. So we are in Genesis 17 right now, and I'm going to read it. So I have a New King James Version of the Bible, and that's what I'm reading from. So this is a sign of the covenant. So when Abram was 99 years old, the Lord appeared to Abram and said to him, I am Almighty God. Walk before me. Sorry. For some reason, I was like, is this the right thing? This is the right part. He said, I am Almighty God. Walk before me, be blameless, and I will make my covenant between me and you and will multiply you exceedingly. Then Abram fell on his face, and God talked with him, saying, As for me, behold, my covenant is with you, and you shall be a father of many nations. No longer shall your name be Abram, but your name shall be Abraham, for I have made you a father of many nations. I will make you exceedingly fruitful, and I will make nations of you, and kings shall come from you. And I will establish my covenant between me and you and your descendants after you in their generations, for an everlasting covenant, to be God to you and your descendants after you. Give me 1 second, you guys. I just realized I didn't check something. I should have checked this earlier on. Okay. I just wanted to make sure it was streaming from my mic. I wanted to do that before I forgot about it. So no more interruptions. Okay. Also, I give to you and your descendants after you the land in which you are a stranger, all the land of Canaan as an everlasting possession, and I will be their God. And God said to Abraham, as for you, you shall keep my covenant, you and your descendants after you through their generations. This is my covenant which you shall keep between me and you and your descendants after you. Every male child among you shall be circumcised, and you shall be circumcised in the flesh of your foreskins, and it shall be a sign of the covenant between me and you. He who is 8 days among you shall be circumcised, every male child in your generations. He who is born in your house or bought with money from any foreigner who is not your descendant. He who is born in your house and he who is bought with your money shall be circumcised, and my covenant shall be in your flesh for an everlasting covenant. And the uncircumcised male child who is not circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin, that person shall be cut off from his people. He has broken my covenant. Then God said to Abraham, as for Sarai, your wife, you shall not call her Sarai, but Sarah shall be her name. And I will bless her and also give you a son by her. Then I will bless her, and she shall be a mother of nations. Kings of people shall be from her. Then Abraham fell on his face and laughed and said in his heart, shall a child be born to a man who is 100 years old? And shall Sarah, who is 90 years old, bear a child? And Abraham said to God, oh, that Ishmael might live before you. Then God said, no, Sarah your wife shall bear you a son. You shall call him Isaac. I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his descendants after him. And as for Ishmael, I have heard you. Behold, I have blessed him, and will make him fruitful, and will multiply him exceedingly. He shall beget 12 princes, and I will make him a great nation. But my covenant I will establish with Isaac, whom Sarah shall bear to you at this set time next year. Then he finished talking with him, and God went up from Abraham. So Abraham took Ishmael his son, all who were born in his house, and all who were bought with his money, every male among the men of Abraham's house, and circumcised the flesh of their foreskins that very same day, as God had said to him. Abraham was 99 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin, and Ishmael his son was 13 years old. And that very same day Abraham was circumcised, and his son Ishmael, and all the men of his house born in the house or bought with money from a foreigner were circumcised with him. I'm going to stop there, okay? That's kind of me. I'm just going to skim through this part, okay? I'll kind of like distill what's happening because there's a lot of circumcision happening in this moment. And so essentially, God appears to Abram when he's 99 years old. Okay, and so 13 years have passed since Ishmael was born. Ishmael's 13, and so there have been 13 years where this promise has not moved. Then God shows up and says, I am El Shaddai. Okay, that's what the Hebrew text says, right? And here we see it say, I am Almighty God. That's El Shaddai. Okay, the God of more than enough. Walk before me. There's a lot happening just in this text. So then he changes Abram's name. And so Abram essentially means exalted father. He renames him Abraham, the father of many nations. And then he's 99 years old. He has one son through a servant. And then God calls him the father of many nations before any single nation exists. Okay, so he names him according to what God is going to do, not what Abraham can see. I think that's so beautiful. And so God also changes Sarah's name, right? She is Sarahi, and she becomes Sarah. So the covenant covers her name as well. She's not on the edge of the promise. She's inside of it with him. Then God tells Sarah, Sarah, you're going to have a son. And Abraham falls to his face laughing because he's like, oh my goodness, I'm 99 years old and she's 90. That math doesn't work. He's on the ground. He's just like, it's not that he lacks faith in this moment. He's just like, God, this doesn't, okay, I'm really old. This is the setup for Genesis 18. Okay, so I had to go through that part because I didn't want to skip it. It has significance. And so both of them go on to have, or they have already had this moment privately. Now we're going to see what happens when Sarah hears it directly. And so in Genesis 18, it says, Then the Lord appeared to him by the terebinth trees of Mamre, as he was sitting in the tent door in the heat of the day. So he lifted his eyes and looked, and behold, 3 men were standing by him. And when he saw them, he ran from the tent door to meet them, bowed himself to the ground, and said, My Lord, if I have now found favor in your sight, do not pass on by your servant. Please let a little water be brought, and wash your feet, and rest yourselves under the tree. And I will bring a morsel of bread, that you may refresh your hearts. After that you may pass by, inasmuch as you have come to your servant. They said, Do as you have said. So Abraham hurried to the tent to Sarah and said, Quickly make ready 3 measures of fine meal, knead it and make cakes. And Abraham ran to the herd, took a tender and a good calf, and gave it to a young man, and he hastened it to prepare it. So he took butter and milk and the calf which he had prepared, and set it before them, and he stood by them under the tree as they ate. Then he said to him, Then they said to him, "Where is Sarah your wife?" So he said, "Here in the tent." And he said, "I will certainly return to you according to the time of life, and behold, Sarah your wife shall have a son." Sarah was listening in the tent door, which was behind him. Now Abraham and Sarah were old, well advanced in age, and Sarah had passed the age of childbearing. Therefore Sarah laughed within herself, saying, "After I have grown old, shall I have pleasure, my Lord being also old?" My Lord meaning Abram. And it said, "And the Lord said to Abraham, why did Sarah laugh, saying, shall I surely bear a child since I'm old? Is anything too hard for the Lord? At the appointed time I will return to you according to the time of life, and Sarah shall have a son." But Sarah denied it, saying, "I did not laugh," for she was afraid. And he said, "No, but you did laugh." So it's referencing God in this moment. God is saying, "No, but you did laugh," right? She's denying it because she's scared. Okay, so I'll pause there. There's more to 18, but I'll just take a second to kind of bring us up to where we're at. So the Lord appears to Abram in this moment. And it is one where Sarah's in the tent and she can hear the entire conversation, right? There's visitors that arrive, and Abraham goes all in. Okay, he runs to meet them. He runs to the herd and has a meal that's prepared really fast. He's going like full hospitality, which is me. I feel like that would be me. I'd be like, I need to make this experience really great for you. If any of you knew me in person, that's like kind of my love language too. I love like these over the top dinners and like just creating a fun experience. To me, those are where memories come from. Like when I think of having my family together, I want it to be pretty and fun. And so I feel like I would be Abraham in this moment, just pulling out all the stops. And so he's not slow about it in this time. He moves towards them with everything he has. And I think it's because he fully understands the weight and who these people are. He understands who's coming to visit him. And so then the question comes from them. They say, "Where's your wife, Sarah?" Okay, and Abraham says, "She's in the tent and she's listening." Well, I don't know if he says that, but we know that she's in the tent and she's listening. So right at the entrance, behind Abraham, she can hear a conversation that is entirely about her future. I think it's one thing maybe when you hear a couple people talking, but imagine like this is how are they described? I think they're described as servants of the Lord, but let me double check. Oh, sorry, I went back too far. In this moment, they are described as does it say? He's by the tree, and then 3 men were standing by him. And then when he saw them, yeah, I don't know. Let me read in my commentary if it specifically names who they are versus saying, okay. So in chapter 18, verse 1, in the commentary, it says, another instance of, so although Abraham perhaps did not recognize at first that one of his visitors, whom he humbly greeted and entertained and properly sent on their way, was Yahweh. Okay. So I knew that it was Yahweh, but I didn't know if it said in fullness who they all were. So he knows one of them is God, is Yahweh. I'll refer to what they say, just as Yahweh for the consistency of it, even though it's the same. But I find that so interesting because he didn't know right away, right? It says that although Abraham perhaps didn't recognize at first that like who one of his visitors was, because it describes them as 3 men. And then later we see, like even going down to verse 13 where it says, "And the Lord said to Abraham, why did Sarah laugh?" So he's with them in that moment. I would assume that the other 2 are angels. I don't know. If you guys have that in your text, I know sometimes too, other translations of the Bible will describe them differently. If you guys are reading from it and it says a different name for them, can you let me know? I didn't look deeper into that part of it, and I should have. But anyway, so we have this moment where I could imagine that Sarah is listening in the tent, and God, Yahweh, is telling her future. Like, I'm kind of jealous. Not gonna lie, I'm kind of jealous because I know that God comes to us and he speaks to us, right? But for God to be there and say, this is what's gonna happen, he's not being vague about it. He's being very, very clear and saying exactly what's gonna happen. And so she's listening right at the entrance, and she can't help but laugh because it just sounds, oh my goodness, this sounds impossible. And so they're having this conversation entirely about her future, and she hasn't been brought to the center of it yet. And so I want to sit with that because I feel like some of us know that feeling. That the thing that God is doing involves you directly, and you can sense that something's happening in this moment. Like you can almost hear it, but you're not fully in that room yet. Kind of like Sarah. You're like, okay, I know this includes me, but what does this mean? Right? You're on the edge of something and it concerns you, but you're waiting to be brought into that. Okay, so she's listening, and the visitor says, I'm going to return this time next year, and Sarah, your wife, will have a son. And she laughs. The word that's used in Hebrew is the same root as Isaac's name. Okay, so it means when God names the child after she laughs. So Sarah laughs, and then God tells her to name her child in the same meaning, similar to how Isaac is named, or not Isaac, Ishmael is named, God hears. Okay, Sarah is going to then name her son something similar to that moment. And I'll go on to talk about that because we haven't spoken about it. But that's where we're at. Okay, so yeah, it doesn't say the names. And thank you, Sandra. Mine doesn't say that it just says 3 men. But I was curious if it said that. It doesn't say which angel specifically. So yeah, that's interesting. Maybe I'll look deeper into it if any other versions of the Bible give more detail. All right, so we have in 18, we're in Genesis 16, and it says, then the men rose from there and looked toward Sodom, and Abraham went with them to send them on the way. And the Lord said, shall I hide from Abraham what I'm doing, since Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him? For I have known him in order that he may command his children and his household after him, that they keep the way of the Lord, to do righteousness and justice, that the Lord may bring to Abraham what he has spoken to him. And the Lord said, because the outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and because their sin is very grave, I will go down now and see whether they have done altogether according to the outcry it has come to me, and if not, I will know. Then the men turned away from there and went to Sodom, and Abraham still stood before the Lord. And Abraham came near and said, gosh, sorry, that moment hit me because I can't imagine like God literally being right here. Enough for you to just have this face-to-face conversation with him, and then you get this moment alone with him. How beautiful. Like, I don't know. I can't imagine that. Well, that would be beautiful. I imagine that in heaven, but face to face in this earthly body, like God coming up and speaking, like that would be, I don't know. Anyway, so the men turned away from there and they went to Sodom, but Abraham stood before the Lord, and Abraham came near and said, "Would you also destroy the righteousness with the wicked? Suppose there were 50 righteous within the city. Would you also destroy the place and not spare it for the 50 righteous that were in it? Far be it from you to do such things as this, to slay the righteous with the wicked, so that the righteous should be as the wicked. Far be it from you. Shall not the judge of all the earth do right?" So the Lord said, "If I find in Sodom 50 righteous within the city, then I will spare all the place for their sakes." Then Abraham answered and said, "Indeed now I am, but dust and ashes have taken it upon myself to speak to the Lord. Suppose there are 5 less than the 50 righteous. Would you destroy all the city for lack of 5? And he said, "If I find there are 45, I will not destroy it." And then he spoke to him yet again and said, "Suppose there should be 40 found there." So he said, "I will not do it for the sake of 40. Then he said, "Let the Lord be angry, and I will speak. Suppose 30 should be found there." So he said, "I will not do it if I will find 30 there." And he said, "Indeed now I have taken it upon myself to speak to the Lord. Suppose 20 should be found there." So he said, "I will not destroy it for the sake of 20. I love how patient God is. It's like, get to it, Abraham. Like, go a little bit lower than 5 at a time. But then he said, "Let the Lord be angry, and I will speak but once more. Suppose 10 should be found there." And he said, "I will not destroy it for the sake of 10. So the Lord went his way as soon as he had finished speaking with Abraham, and Abraham returned to his place. Okay, that interaction I always just find so, it is a little bit funny because God is just standing there, right? Like listening to Abraham, and Abraham's negotiating with him. And Abraham's like, I'm so, like, I want to be humble here because I'm speaking to God. I know who I'm speaking to, but let me petition on the behalf of lives. Like, this is a really big deal. And I think obviously God understands the weight of it, and he's patient. And I think that is also an indication of sometimes it's having that faith just to ask God, even when it feels like, ooh, this is too big of an ask. Maybe I shouldn't. God just, he didn't, like, I love that the text doesn't show that he scolded Abraham for asking and saying, okay, let me draw a line here. Or this, how, look at who I am, right? How dare you ask that of me? I've already made my decision. No. It reminds me of that childlike faith. My boys come up to me and they'll ask a question, even though they've asked me like 10 times and I've said no. Or sometimes it's something that they've never asked me before. And it's like, oh my goodness, why are you asking that? But they have that faith to say, like, I'm just going to ask anyway. Maybe she'll say yes, maybe she'll say no. With God, I love that. I think this is an indication to us sometimes that it is that we're too afraid to ask those questions, so we don't, and he's waiting for the ask. He's told Abraham what he's going to do. And in that moment, he's like, okay, let me just ask. This is a really big deal. I need to intercede. That shows me that our prayers also have weight, right? It shows me that we can intercede on behalf of others, and God is listening. Does that mean that he's going to do it 100%? Not always, but it's that ask. Like you said, you like how he's bold enough to ask. Yeah, I agree. I love the boldness in that. And I love that God just stood and listened, and he honored it, and he was very patient. I also think a lot of times too, and I'd love to know if you guys ever get like this. There are times where I think, who am I to ask God something like that? He's already made that decision. And then it's just that moment where I'm like, but maybe I'll just ask anyway. I need to be bolder in my prayers, I think. I think a lot of it too is that God, I think he does like when we're bold in prayers. That doesn't mean that every time he's going to say yes, but I think it's just that relationship that you have enough that he's doing it in a respectful way too. He's respectful of who he's asking, but he's still bold enough to ask. And I think that God, to me, that's showing an element of it, that he wants us to be bold in our prayers to him. It shows us that I think it shows us that that we trust him enough to know that he is a God that hears us, that gives him the credit where credit is due, in the sense of, you make the impossible happen, God. I'm going to ask you something that to my human mind might look like it's not going to happen, or that maybe I think that you're going to say no. And it's just, to me, it's so multi-layered. There's so many elements of that. Yes, pray as if it has been done or given. I agree with that. Yep, there's so many elements of it. I agree. Shows that we can talk to God honestly and persistently. Yes. So I think that moment, there's a lot going on at the heart of it. So we have this moment where he's petitioning on behalf of other people. I also love when God goes to speak to, this is me backtracking, but when God goes to speak to Sarah, and she laughs, and then she says, when God goes to Abraham, he goes, why did Sarah laugh? I think that's in verse 13. Yeah, in verse 13 it says, and the Lord said to Abraham, why did Sarah laugh, saying, shall I surely bear a child since I am old? I think that God knows that Sarah is listening, because he could have gone to Sarah and asked her directly. But he's asking, why did Sarah laugh? He asked Abraham. And then he asks, I feel like the question that kind of centers the whole, that's the center of this whole passage. And he says in Genesis 14, is anything too hard for the Lord? Right? So, in the Hebrew version of it, the original text describes it as beyond the natural order. Like beyond the natural order that one can produce. Extraordinary. Beyond reach. And so God is asking, is there anything outside of what I can do? He's not scolding her. He's just trying to he's trying to answer the fear underneath the laugh, because her laugh isn't coming. She's not lacking. I don't think that she's lacking faith in this moment. I mean, a little bit, yes, but she has a fear underneath all of it. She's calculated. And so when she's calculating all of these things, she kind of left God out of it. And then she steps directly into it within the question. Or he steps directly into it by asking a question, just as he does so often. That's one of my favorite things about when we see God speaking, is he questions. When you look into, when you study a lot about neuroscience and psychology and all of that, give me 1 second. I have to do my puzzle piece. When you study that element of it, there's a lot that God is doing with your mind. He's reorienting it. He's not asking questions for information. He already knows the answer. He's trying to recenter your mind and your focus. Okay, so he asks a question. He steps directly into it with a question by saying, is there anything beyond my reach? It's a reminder to her. And so then he says, I'm going to return at an appointed time. So in Hebrew, that word means the set time. There's already a determined time. That means, okay, so don't miss this part, you guys. That means when they say that God's going to return at the set time, at the already determined time, that means that the promise was never late. God had already established a timeline, and so she was measuring it against the wrong thing. She was measuring it in her own time. I think that's so... There's so many things I see in this, but I love how God doesn't scold. He knew the entire time that Abraham and Sarai, first of all, they didn't know, right? He took them into this place where he just promised Abraham, I'm going to make you a father of a great nation, right? Of great nations. You have Sarai who's barren. Then he says, go out, leave from your father's country, go into this place that is the unknown, right? Go. And then we learned in Hebrew to go find, oh my gosh, I don't want to say this wrong. In Hebrew, we know when it says go from. Let me get it pulled up. Get out of your country, from your family, and from your father's house to a land that I will show you. Okay, I will make you a great nation. I will bless you and make your name great. And you shall be a blessing. And I will curse him who curses you. And in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed. In the original Hebrew, what that means is go towards, go find yourself, right? He's not just giving him something directionally, like geographically. But he also doesn't tell him exactly where he's going. He wants Abram in this moment to have that faith, to just trust him. So along this journey, Abram is not given a set timeline. He doesn't say, when you are 99 years old, you will finally bear a child. He doesn't say, when Sarah is 90 years old, you're finally going to bear a child. None of that is, he doesn't say that. He just tells them to go. He gives them one step. Right? He wants them to walk in faith. So Abram does, they do. And there are moments where they act in fear instead of just keeping the promise in mind, right? They go to Egypt, or they go to this place, there's a famine, and then they go to Egypt because the land can't sustain them, so they go to Egypt. Then Abram in this moment decides, my wife is so beautiful, I'm scared that they're just going to only want Sarai and not me, and they're going to do away with me. The Pharaoh does, right? He sees Sarai, he sees that she's beautiful, wants to take her upon as his wife, and God intervenes, of course. Then they have to leave Egypt. But in this moment, when they leave Egypt, Abram walks out of there wealthier and more well off than when he entered in. Okay, so then they go into this place where they're at in Canaan. They get to this point though where Abram and his nephew have to split course because they have just so much wealth that the land can't sustain both of them. And Abram knows that God has promised him, and because of this, he allows Lot to have the first pick of the land. Lot picks Sodom and Gomorrah, which is where we're going to get into here soon. Not today, but soon. And God rewards him for his faith. He rewards Abram. But then the next moment we see everything's kind of settled, and Sarai says, I don't know how this promise is going to come to be. Sleep with your maidservant because God promised you something. There's all these instances, or these two instances, where they're operating more fear-based. And I think that shows us, too, that that's natural. That's just a natural part because God doesn't reveal all of the plan to us. And we know that's for a reason. And I love in this moment when we speed it up to where they're at now, that God came. I love that God came to them in the flesh, in this human form. It says he is a man. I don't know. I didn't study that part in depth. But he comes to him enough to where Abram can talk to him face to face. And he tells him and Sarah, because I believe that he knows that Sarah is listening, the entirety of the plan. That shows me that God will reveal the plan at the appointed time, not on our time. And it's showing us that there was always a plan and a time in place. Just because we can't see it doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. And so Sarah then denies, like God asked Abraham, hey, why did Sarah laugh? And Sarah denies it. She said, I didn't laugh. Then God speaks directly to her and says, no, for you did laugh. Like you did laugh, actually. He doesn't want this composed answer from her. He names what actually happened. And so he speaks directly to Sarah in the tent because he knows she's there. I feel like Sarah's this is what I'm picturing, this interaction between them. Like I've had my kids where they think they're really sneaky and they're like in the corner pretending to like hide. And I have to pretend like I can't see them. That's kind of like how I picture this interaction with them. Like, oh, where's my boys? And so I'll have to be like to my husband, where's Zane? Where's Wes? I wonder where they're at. Like, I kind of feel like that's a similar interaction as to what's happening with God and Abraham. And then God obviously speaks directly to Sarah and says, why'd you laugh? He doesn't want the surface level answer that she gives, right? He wants to know directly from her what happened. You laughed, so why? I think it's because he wants to answer it, right? And if she gives this, I don't know, I didn't laugh kind of answer, I don't think it allows him to answer it in the fullness, right? So he pushes her a little bit more. You laughed, and I'm telling you anyway that there is an appointed time that is set. Okay, the son is coming. The son that you've been waiting for so long. You've been waiting for decades for this promise to be, and now it's finally happening, right? But her laughing doesn't move the promise. I love that I don't think that God is scolding her in this moment. He's just telling her, there's nothing beyond what I can do. There was always a plan in place. I didn't change it. There's nothing that you did to move it forward. That also gives me closure. I wouldn't say closure. That gives me encouragement in knowing that when I am operating in my own, wondering, God, when is this promise going to happen? When is this going to come to be, right? Whether you're waiting for a baby that you've been trying to have for a really long time, like Sarah and Abraham, or you are, in this scenario where you're waiting to get married. You're like, I want a spouse. I want a significant other. Maybe it's just not going to happen for me. Maybe you're working something in your business. Give me 1 second, you guys. Okay, I'm just watching the comments. Yeah, maybe you're in your business and you've been working your business diligently day in and day out, and you feel like, when is this ever going to come to be? Maybe you're waiting for a promotion. Maybe you are a single mom that's living in a hotel with her kids. Maybe you are at a loss. I don't know. I don't know what that season looks like for you, but God has an appointed time. He has something set for us. He hasn't forgotten about us. He hears his children, right? He hears the prayers. He hears all of the moments that it feels like we are at the end of our rope, that we're about to give up. And I think that it is something too where he still speaks to us through all of these moments. When we look at Abraham in Genesis, God comes to him. He doesn't say in the beginning, I'm going to give you a promise. I'm not going to tell you where, and I'll just see you at the end of it when it's time. We see that he's with Abraham in so many instances throughout the thing. And even at that, Abraham still is at this point where he's, first of all, shocked, even though God told him what was going to happen. He says, yes, you're going to have a son. He doesn't tell him, you need to wait till you're 99 in July 1st. I'm going to come to you. He doesn't tell us all of those because that's not part like that. I can't say exactly why God does it, but I know that's for a reason, right? He wants us to I think that he does it because it creates a dependence on him. It deepens our relationship with him, our faith. There's a lot that's happening, and there's so many reasons why I think we aren't to know. But we see that God still is with him in every instance, giving him signs, giving him indications of, I'm still here answering you. It's just not time yet. I'm still walking with you and before you to make this happen. Come to me, right? We saw when Abraham spoke to him when he was Abram and asked him, okay, you told me about this. How is this to be? How is this going to happen, God? I don't even have any children. And God answers him, look up at the sky. I'm going to make you as numerous as the stars. Like, can you count the stars? That's how many descendants you're going to have. So numerous that you can't even count. Right? So he reaffirms him and he tells him, it's okay that you asked, right? He doesn't scold him and say, how dare you? I already told you. He just says, he gives him a reminder. And I believe the same thing happens for us when we're going in these scenarios where we cannot see what God is doing. We have no idea where the time frame is going to be, what time frame we're on. We know that we're on God's time, right? In our limited capacity, right? When we don't know, I believe that God makes it to where he's always with us and he's always answering. When we seek him, he's going to answer. Are we willing to hear it? Are we willing to accept the answer? Or is it a scenario where we're going to sit and wander and operate in fear? And I believe no, that's not what he's calling us to do. He's calling us to that deeper dependence in him to say, trust me. I have never given you a reason to doubt me. I am going before you. I am moving with intention. I have not forgotten you. I remember. He's also not going to scold you for asking, right? Because he knows that it's hard. That's where the faith element comes into play. And I think so many of us, if I bring it back to the business part, right? So many of us in here who are operating businesses, we're building something, we're trying to figure out what God has said about our work and if it's still true, right? I think that's what's happening. I see it more specifically with Sarah. I don't know why Sarah sticks out to me a little bit more, but with her, I think that when I look at Sarah, and raise your hand if you see her in this way, maybe it's just me, but I see Sarah as one where she feels like she's excluded from the promise. I think she believes that God is going to do it and he's going to do it through Abraham, but she doesn't see herself in the promise. And so she's there to support him, but she's counted herself out and said, listen, I'm barren. I don't know how this is going to come to be, but I know, Abraham, you're the one that got the promise. And that's not the case, right? God is reminding her that you are a part of this. I don't know where you ever thought that you wouldn't be included, but you're in it. Do you guys see Sarah like that? Like she kind of excluded herself out of the promise? And so in individuals, right, where we're us as business owners, as leaders, as us building something in our homes, in our 9 to 5, and whatever that looks like for you, right? And you're trying to figure out, is what God said about me, that promise that he gave me, that desire that I have to go run a business, to lead in a corporate job, to steward my family, being a stay-at-home mom, whatever that looks like for you. Actually, I want to know what that looks like for you guys. What does that look like for you? As you're listening to this, what do you feel like God has called you to? And you sit in these moments sometimes and say, is this still true? Is this promise still true? Right? Is the promise still true that God has told me I'm going to have a baby and I can't see what that looks like because I've been trying for a long time? Are you building a business? Are you trying to move up in your corporate career? What does that look like for you guys? I actually want to, I ask you that because for me, obviously, it's building my business, but I want to make this relatable to you guys. And I love seeing what you do on these lives, like what your businesses are, your day-to-day looks like. What does that promise look like that you're still waiting for? Because I want to bring it home for you. So some of us have had these promises over our business, and it is something that feels late. Okay, you wrote it down, you prayed about it, you took a step, and then the number didn't move in the way that you expected. Maybe you didn't have clients coming in the way that you pictured it. Maybe it's something in you that you started doing. You started to do the same math that Sarah did, right? You said, the math ain't mathing, God. How is this going to happen? I'm barren. My husband has a promise. Sarah with no ability to have children, plus Abraham, who's going to be the father of a great nation, equals what? Equals what? Like, it doesn't make sense to me, right? Maybe you're like that, right? You said that I was going to be called to abundance, God, but here I am with my checking account negative. Your calling is telling me that I'm going to be the CEO of a massive company. I don't know why I have that on my mind, but you said that, God, so I've been at it for so long. That doesn't make sense to me, Father. Right? Whatever your scenario is. Some of us are sitting in this place where it feels like, okay, maybe that's not the promise because I've been waiting for so long. I want to encourage you to tell you that isn't a faith problem, okay? What scripture is showing us is when we sit and we can't understand, right, in our limited capacity, because we have a Father who knows all, who operates on his own. He is outside of space and time and us, right? Like his plan is greater than ours. It is one where we know that he has a plan in place, but we just can't see it. That's not you lacking in your faith, okay? We see that with Sarah. He doesn't scold her and say, "O ye of little faith," right? He doesn't say that to her. He just comes to her and says, "Do you believe that I am still the God that will do that?" Right? Do you believe that I am bound by those things? Can't I do anything that's possible? Like, can't I do the impossible? Like, don't put me in this box. I don't think he's scolding her. And he also didn't say don't ask questions. He didn't say that to Abraham when Abraham went to him and said, "How is this going to happen? You promised me something and it hasn't happened. I can't see what you're about to do." That's not a faith problem. When I look specifically at Sarah or any of us that are building, this is a person who has been holding on to something long enough that it just starts to feel really heavy. And then what God says to Sarah is what I believe that he says to us. The appointed time is already set, okay? Your business, where you're at with your family, where you're at in your marriage, where you're at today. Okay, the promise isn't late. None of those things are behind. Okay, the only thing is that we've been measuring it against our own timeline. That's the only problem. The only part of the equation that is inaccurate is that we were factoring in our own math, not God's. Right? God's question is the same one. Is there anything that is too extraordinary for me? I feel, though, that's that's me a lot of times, right? I'm putting in my own timeline, my own, especially in business. I have to say, I don't do that with my day-to-day with my family. For some reason in business, not for some reason, I do know why. There's metrics and standards and all of these things where it's not that I am trying to put God into a box, but there's a part of it where I say, I know there's a job that I have to go in and do. I have to have something to determine whether this thing is working or not, whether this offer that I put out, whether my TikTok lives are, functioning. It's more that. But when I start to take it wider and say, well, is this my calling though? When things don't work out, that's the problem. And that's where it starts to get slippery. And that's where we can't do that, right? We can't take it even wider and say, well, if my TikToks don't perform within 90 days, then maybe I'm just not supposed to do this business at all. Like, that's not it. But it's when I try to put God into a box and put him in my own timelines and say, God, if you don't do this within this time, then maybe I was never called to do it. Maybe that's not the promise. Like, to me, that's the difference. And so that's what I'm seeing with Sarah and Abraham in this moment. That's how God handles the promise, right? It's this moment where God is saying, I have given you the promise, and that holds true. It's still just as relevant today as it was when I gave it to you. But remember whose time you're operating in. Okay, so if this sounds like you, just know you're not alone, right? Good morning, King Henry. So you said oftentimes we ourselves get in the way, wanting to do it our way. Yes, I think it's a lot of times. A lot of times. But the promise is still there. The promise is definitely still there. It's one where God is saying, I have not changed the timeline. I have always had an appointed time. You may not know what it is, but when it's there, I will have it be where you can see. Right? He comes to Abraham and says, this is the time. It's now. How exciting. How exciting that would be. There's so many parts of this that I love. So many parts of it, of 18. He comes to him, he tells him, now is the time. And then he goes on to show us it's okay to ask boldly. You said you're praying on leaving your 8 to 5 soon to pursue your business. I love that. When you say that you're waiting on God's confirmation, I agree. I think that sometimes it's a couple of things. Not that you're asking for advice, but I want to bring it back to this part too, because I love how he demonstrates to ask boldly. Sometimes he's waiting on us, not the other way around, right? God, what would this look like for me? I want to leave my 9 to 5. You gave me this desire. You put this desire on my heart. I'm asking you, can I leave my 9 to 5? I want to leave my 9 to 5. I want to honor what you're calling me to step into more fully, and then ask boldly for whatever it is that you're needing. Give me that income. Give me that client, Father. Allow me to be more what I need for me to step into this. Like sometimes it's that bold faith or the bold ask. But I think a lot of times when he's asking us to leave something, he's already giving you everything you need. He's looking for you to walk in obedience. I can't even tell you, I can't say 100% that's what it is in your scenario, but I can't tell you how many women I've worked with that they're in that exact situation where he's waiting on you to walk out in obedience because he's given you everything you need. Yes, there are certain things that we've maybe asked him for, but I was one of those women where I already knew. He was just looking for me to actually do it. But I will say, whatever it is, even if we're sitting and waiting, God will make it happen. He had to get me out of my situation for me to finally listen. But I think sometimes too, it's the ask, and then other times it's just walking out in obedience because He's already given you everything you need. And we hold back in fear. So I'll pray over that for you though. Pray over all the scenarios that you guys are going through where it feels like we're waiting on God or we're waiting on the promise. We miss our gifts because we aren't ready for them. There are a lot of times where it feels like the gifts that He's given us, I think I see that more often happening in family dynamics. The gift of relationship, where we like harden our hearts, and it's something that time passes and we missed that. When you say 7 years, Sandra, maybe I missed that part. Is that in relation to like a business? Saying you wish you had started sooner? Because I believe that that's never wasted time. Never. I don't believe anything is wasted with God. I believe that it happens exactly when it needs to. Or our mindset, we thought it was supposed to be something and it never, like God had something entirely different in mind. But if you guys are new here, we are in Genesis 17 and 18 is where we were at today. And if you are just catching this, like you just got on the live, I have a replay if you guys ever want to watch it to get you up to speed. We go through Genesis, or we go through the Bible from start to finish. And so we're in Genesis 17 and 18 today. In the recap, it's like a vault. So you guys can see all the way up through Genesis 6 up to today. Today will be added on there. If you guys ever want that, there's a link in my bio for that. But also for those of you guys that were later on and you didn't hear this part, if you're new here, welcome. I go live Monday through Friday. I go live at 9 Central, and I go live for about an hour and a half. I usually try to do at least an hour and a half. Sometimes it's 2 hours. It just depends on what we're getting into. But we go through what it actually means to build a business and life with God at the center of it. So if you want to go deeper into that, I want to welcome all of you guys that are new and didn't hear this part, because I have a little gift for all of you. Because I know when we go through times like this, especially kind of what we're talking about today, sometimes we tend to operate in our own. And we start asking questions and thinking in a way that isn't in alignment with what Scripture says, in alignment with what God says. And sometimes the questions that we're asking, they need to be reframed. And so that's what this is. It's the guide is called Quiet Questions for Big Decisions. And it's just like for people who are kind of in this in-between place with God and their work. So if you guys want that, you can drop an emoji and I'll send it to you. But it's just a gift. It's just something for you guys to have as my thank you for being on this live. And so, yeah, that's really where we're at today. It is something where, for those of you guys too that are on here and are in my community, Eden and Empire, this is the kind of work that we do in it, where we go deeper into reframing your mindset. And it's something that I call out just because I remember being in this place so vividly where I was like, how do I do this? How do I operate in a way that honors God and really shows me what He's calling me to? Because I think it's so hard when you're running a business and you have your life, right? You're a mom, you're a wife, you're whatever your additional titles are, right? But you're wanting to honor God in all of that. How do we do that and drown out the noise of the world? To truly see what God is calling us to steward in our businesses. That's what I do in the community. I coach women. And so that's a space where we do that work together every single week. But it's open for any of you guys that are interested in that. I just had to call that out. This is a promise I made to myself, okay? Because most of you won't hear me talk about that, but I need to. And I do it because I was afraid of like, oh my goodness, you guys, what are they going to think of me, right? I don't want them to think that I'm just trying to bait and sell, right? That's always my biggest fear, and I don't know why. But I had this reframing of my mind over the weekend, and it was one where I said, God took me through this incredible journey. And this woman that I am today, and the woman that I'm continuing to step into, that's my testimony to him, this experience that he took me through. And it feels selfish because I remember when I was going through that phase where God called me into Eden and Empire, and I knew that I wanted to glorify him, and I also wanted to continue to work with women. And I was like so lost. There was I felt like I was in the wilderness, and it felt really isolating and lonely. And I remember thinking, if I just had someone who could tell me what I'm like, name it for me. Like I would pray and I'd fast, and God highlighted a lot for me. And I know that all I needed was him, right? But I am so grateful for the journey that he took me through. And so having somebody who has gone through that, right? Gone through that, and to just give you that encouragement to say, hey, maybe this is what God is calling you to. Maybe this is what you're going through, right? A friend, a mentor. I said it would be really selfish of me to continue to hold it back out of fear, right? And so that is my plug. I'm going to, that's me being bold. And I will do this every single live because this is what we do. We understand what God is taking us through. Obviously, we apply the business element of it because that's what I do with branding and marketing. That's my expertise. But God has taken me through this journey of understanding how our minds work, how we can reorient them on him and the word. And we do that as a community. And so it's open to any of you ladies for that. So the link is in my bio for that as well. There's a lot that I want to share with you guys. I know how isolating and hard some of these places can be, and I just want to be that friend to come alongside you and talk you through it. So thank you guys. Thank you for sitting in on this live. I want to leave you with this very specific question, right? As you're going through periods where it feels like the promise is not going to happen, just remember, right? At the appointed time, God has an appointed time. Remember that God said, is there anything too extraordinary for the Lord, right? Then I want that to be what you come back to the next time the math isn't mathing, right? When the math doesn't work. And if you know a woman or man that has been in this scenario where it feels like they're holding on to the promise, if you're blessed enough to have someone come to you and confide in you, point them to this in Genesis. This is what helps me through these times. So on Tuesday, tomorrow, we're going to be in Genesis 19. And this is the point about Lot's wife. There's significance in that. If you've never studied it in this way, what happens to her, because we're going to walk through Sodom and Gomorrah. And I want to give you the full context of everything that's happening as much as I can. So I invite you guys, I know I didn't say this at the beginning of the live, but it is one where I always invite you to share your discernment. Share the things that in your studies that you have found. If there's anything that I leave out that will add richness to what we're studying, I invite that in. I invite in the questions. This is a safe space for you to ask questions, and I won't judge you. I won't condemn you and say that's a silly question, you should know that. This is a space where we study the Bible together. There are so many things that I'm learning all the time, day in and day out. I'm no expert on the Bible. I'm no expert in faith, right? I just have it. And I'm always being pruned and refined and transformed. I think this season, I want to ask this too before we hop off. I want to know what season you guys are in. I know a lot of us, we said we're in the waiting, but what does that look like for you? For me, I'm in the waiting season, but I'm stepping into more boldness, more confidence. I'm going to have a TikTok that I post here soon, where I share this, where this moment happened for me more specifically, because it happened this weekend. And it is one where I felt like I want to be this version of the woman that is confident. And that shows, right? Not arrogant, just confident. Like this steadiness of, I don't question anymore. I don't need validation. I don't need anything other than God. And if nothing, it's funny because I have this library of books. I would say about 90% of them I have yet to read. I wanted to just fill, as we were decorating my office, I went to a thrift store. And if you guys have ever, or ever need like nice books or just books in general, definitely go to like Barnes and Noble if you want like a new book and you want to spend and invest on that. But if you're just looking for them for like decoration, or thrift stores actually have a lot of faith books. I knew that I wanted predominantly my space to be filled with books about God, because there's nothing more exciting to me than learning about the Lord. But this is my space. Like this space is where I honor him. I honor him all over my house. But there's something about this space that I'm like, I just want it filled with books that I can learn more about you. And anyway, I'm like grabbing books, and most of them are faith-based. So I'm walking in my office and I was like, God, I want to like book, like tangible book, not something I listen to on Audible, not like on my Kindle. I want like a physical book. What will you have me read? I don't have it here. It's in my house. I also don't get a lot of time to just like sit and read, because then my boys, like, I'll start reading something and then I have to go do something. Anyway, and this book is called, what is it called? I'm going to get the equation wrong. It's like Jesus plus something equals nothing, I think. I'll show it to you guys tomorrow. Anyway, I'm reading this book and I'm like flipping through the first few pages. It is to a T everything I've been experiencing this weekend. And it's like this guide almost to walk me through it. And I'm like, won't you do it, God? Won't you do it? Because it's been on my shelf. It's just been over there, up towards the top. It's just been sitting there waiting for me to start reading it. But I had this moment this weekend where I was like, I don't want to live in this state of mind that I am in sometimes, where it's just, I'm analyzing everything. Is this of you, God? Is this? Is this? And then I take it and I externalize it. And it's like, if this, then it's like, when you move this way, God, then this is proof. Or like, if my husband does this thing, does that mean this? And it's just like, ugh, I hate it. That's me being really, really honest. I just want to walk in full confidence, right? In everything. This confidence that comes from this unwavering thought of, I know you've got me taken care of, right? I know you have me covered in every area. Don't analyze it. There's a time for that. That was another thing that I told myself. Take it. And first of all, don't make everything about me, because not everything is about you, right? If your husband is grumpy for the day, or your kids are being annoying or sad, they say they don't want to hang out with you, It's not always about you. It's not questioning your character as a mom or a wife. Or your brother doesn't want to spend time with you, or he hasn't spoken to you for a little bit. That doesn't mean that he doesn't love you. He's just going through his own stuff. You know what I mean? It's like those kind of things. If a client doesn't respond within a certain time frame, it's not about you, right? It's not always about you. Sometimes it is, but I don't want to operate in that way. It stems from this need for validation because of a rejection wound that I have. And I said, I don't want to be that woman anymore. I don't want to have to need anybody else but God, right? And I don't want to operate in this mentality where everything is so dependent on XYZ, right? So this version of myself, I am claiming it, right? I am praying over it and stepping in full confidence that, you know what's funny, you guys? I have a tattoo on my ankle. In Greek, it says, I am enough as I am. I've had it for like at least 9 years. I just want to be enough as I am, right? Not always thinking of this. Like, I want to be present in this moment, and that is enough. So that's me. That's where I'm walking into. So I haven't really gotten to the comments very much. You guys said, good morning to all of you I haven't said good morning to. Apologies. Sandra, you said you're not going to be able to join the live until Friday. No worries. That's 100% why I created these the recaps for you guys too. I will miss you, but I know that it's totally fine. Whatever you have going on, just know you can always catch up. Let's see. Beautifully blessed. Welcome. I don't think I've seen your name here on this, so if you're new, welcome. You're stepping into more confidence, strengthening. That's where I feel like I'm stepping into. And thank you, Erica. There's a lot of times where I feel like I'm not well, see, that's me not having confidence. And I fear that it shows through. And I'm like, I'm not going to be that woman anymore. I want to walk boldly in that, right? I know who I am. I know who God made me to be. For those of you, because I see in the comments you're saying you lack confidence, that's my encouragement for you today. Just walk boldly. Knowing that God has a plan. What a blessing. What a blessing it is that we saw favor in God's eyes. That He saw us. I know some of you have heard me say this, but it's just a reminder that He saw that the world needed one of us, right? That the world couldn't live without one of us. Right? So He created us so specifically. Walk in that boldness, knowing that we were that the creator of the heavens, of the earth, of every single thing that we can see, the things that we can't see, all of the things, right? That He knows us by name. And He said, I'm giving you an assignment because I see you as worthy. How could we not walk in boldness? Like, who else do we need that validation from? There's no one higher than Him. Carolyn, you said you're in a waiting season, everything falling apart financially, but you still have enough faith. I'm praying for you, but I'm proud of you for having that faith. He will get you through it, absolutely. Let's see. God has been asking to give your testimony, and after that, the doors will unlock. Give your testimony. Give it. There's no greater time, right, than right now. It is also one where I actually was operating in that mentality where I had to stop myself in thinking that I had to earn, that God would somehow, if I do this, then this will happen. I think there's a level of that for sure. But it's already been given to you. And I think that you are in that perfect place. There's nothing that we have to do to earn the promise, right? We saw that with Moses and Abraham. So, bootleg, you do not have to have a degree to speak God's word. Jesus told stories. You do that in the streets. I give you all the praise That is not. It's funny because my husband and I were talking about this yesterday. We were outside eating dinner with our boys, and our neighbor and his sons were out. And my oldest was like, I want to go say hi to the neighbor. And you guys, that kind of stuff gives me like, ugh, I can't. I can talk to any and everybody. I just don't want to. That sounds really vain or maybe like not nice. I just don't want to. There's something about the way that I am. I love deeper conversations. Not everything has to be like, tell me your life story. But I don't really like a surface level, like, hey, how's your day? Those are nice, but like, I want to have an actual conversation with you. And so I told my husband, I was like, or my husband goes, you know, the thing that I've noticed about Zane is that he really likes talking to people. Like he can talk to any and everyone. And my husband and I are both more reserved people. And I said, you know what, Zane, I love that for you. Do that. Don't go talk to like some creepy man. But like, as you get older, continue to keep that, because that's beautiful that you're willing to just say hi and ask people about their day, because that's not me. And I said, I know that I can be that person. Like I could go up to my neighbor and I'd be totally fine. It's just that I don't want to. My husband, on the other hand, is like, he's not scared to, he's more shy than I am. But anyway, that's what it made me think of, is that like, props to you that you can do that in the streets, because that's amazing. You definitely don't need a degree to speak God's word. Just make sure it's accurate. That's the only thing I say. Just make sure that what you're saying actually is accurate to God's word and it glorifies him, right? So you'll be posting it in April on TikTok. Okay, April's in 2 days. So I'm excited to see that. If you post it and I don't say anything on it, send it to me, because I want to see it. I'm excited for that. Yes, stand on God's promises. You just got managing money God's way. It's good. It's good. There is one. Do I have it in here? I'll show it to you guys tomorrow. I'm so unprepared. I mean, I wasn't prepared to talk about it, but there's one that I have. I don't know where it is. It's about managing God's money as well. It's good. I'm curious though, Erica, if you're still on here, if this managing money God's way, is it more of like a poverty mindset? The one that I have is more in the poverty mindset, where it's like, I liked it, but it wasn't 100%. Wouldn't that be funny if that is the book? But that book that I have, I wasn't fully like in love with it. So I'm curious how that one is. Vanessa, you said you miss your confidence. My live reminded you about the beauty of walking with that confidence. Yeah, I was telling myself too, I feel like before I started in this journey, I had a lot more confidence, because I'd go and speak on stages. I'd go and lead events, do all of these things. And now just the thought of that, I just don't want to. Like, I don't even like going to coffee dates with people for some reason. And I think the heart of that is that what I kind of, if you guys have gone through this, please let me know, because I'm curious. But I used to go through this. I used to just do so many things. It might be burnout a little bit, but it's been like a year and a half. I think the heart of it is that when I crave like actual connection with people. So when I go to networking events or I speak on stages, I'm not getting that from people. It's very surface. And that's not what I want anymore. If it serves a purpose, then I'll of course go do it, but I tend to shy away from those now. And I think that's why. So, let's see. What time is the live? I don't know if you're still on here. I go live Monday through Friday at 9 Central, and I go live for about an hour and a half. And Lee, I did go live on Friday for like 20 minutes, and I was in my car because I had an event that I was a part of, and I've gone live in my car before and it wasn't an issue, but for some reason last Friday it was not. The connection was just awful. And so I said, you know what? I'm just not going to do this and we'll do it on Monday. So you actually didn't miss anything because we covered it today. So thank you, Lauren. I am very transparent. Sometimes I wonder, like, am I a little bit too transparent? But I feel like, no, I just want to be real with you guys. So let's see. You've really enjoyed the session. Well, I'm happy to have you. If you're still on here, beautifully blessed. It's an honor to have each and every one of you guys on my lives. So, let's see. On set Law and Order listening. What? You're on the set of Law and Order? Traveling actor? Tell me more if you're still on here. What are you doing there? Okay, I'm so behind. Let's see. Besides having your business, you work at your church Tuesday through Thursday. Oh, I love that. Carolyn, you said you want to start business again, but you don't have finances or the how-to. Can you reach out to me, Carolyn? I just want to talk you through some of these things. I just want to be that person that, because sometimes God is asking something not different in the sense of business, but he's asking you to think differently. Because he'll give you everything you need to start. So you can be a humbled fisherman. Yes. I try to be very humble. Let's see. It's easy to share God with strangers, but hard to share him with people you know. Sometimes, yeah. God has taken that out of me, out of this last year-ish. So, yeah. Let's see. If I see Jesus can do it, then so can I. It was a good feeling. Yeah. If Jesus can go out in the streets and preach, then so can you. Yes. Let's see. Yeah, it's crazy how, Erica, you said you did a 360 as a kid and would talk to anybody, but as an adult, no. I think that's part of like the beauty of children and having that childlike faith is just we see things so differently, and that's how he wants us to be. Okay. Yes, please send me the link for that book. So love that you guys found this live. It means a lot. You are a young woman's pastor and you have no income, so you started doing TikToks. I will pray over those, and I will, if you guys can, please go support Mary. I will follow you, Mary, and I will try to support you as much as I can. But thank you, each and every single one of you. If you missed it, I go live Monday through Friday at 9 Central. Tomorrow we're going to be in Genesis 19 looking at Lot's wife. We're walking through Sodom and Gomorrah. And I think, to me, this moment is one of the most directly relevant pictures in Genesis for women that are in a season of transition. So I saw a lot of you that I've seen a lot of you throughout this live and previous lives. That's what I mean. Where you're in a season of transition, you're trying to leave a 9 to 5 or step into something in more fullness in your business. To me, this is one where as you're in a season of transition, we talk about looking back and what that costs you looking forward. Okay, so I'm going to be live tomorrow at 9 Central. And I'm going to see you all there. Have a beautiful, happy Monday.